And I can see some of that actually is a repeated audience juga lah. Okay, so let's start lah, Dr. Yasmin. Okay, right. Okay, Assalamualaikum. Okay, and salam sejahtera to everyone here in Zoom and for audience members watching through Facebook Live. My name is Pir Muhammad. Okay, and I'm the manager of UKM-YSD Chair for Sustainability. On behalf of our team, I warmly welcome you all, okay, to our first Sustainability Talk series for the year 2024. I'll be moderating this session, okay, along with our esteemed speaker, Dr. Yasmin Rasyid, General Manager of Sustainability at Sime Darby Property, Malaysia. So before we begin, okay, let me share a brief introduction, okay, to the UKM-YSD Chair. Our journey started back in 2010 as two separate chairs in UKM, namely UKM-YSD Chair for Sustainable Development, Zero Waste Technology, and UKM-YSD Chair for Climate Change. Since 2021, we have consolidated into a single unified UKM-YSD Chair for Sustainability at Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment, UKM. Our chair's vision is to lead sustainability initiatives towards long-term productivity and well-being through research excellence in climate change and circular solutions. At UKM-YSD Chair, we have been conducting various research and development projects. We collaborate with industries and the community. We also conduct various programs to promote sustainable practices among our community members. All these efforts have been made possible thanks to the generous endowment fund, Ringgit Malaysia of RM15 million provided by Yayasan Sime Darby. If you would like to know more about our activities, feel free to contact our social media or you can contact us directly. And today's Sustainability Talk series is one of the many events related to the sustainability literacy conducted by the chair. This talk series was initiated back in 2022. At the UKM-YSD Chair, we try our best, okay, to engage with creative and industrious individuals who work tirelessly towards promoting sustainability initiatives. And today, okay, we are lucky, okay, to have Dr. Yasmin with us. So Dr. Yasmin, thank you, okay, for joining us today as a speaker. So before we further continue, let me read a big briefing of biography of Dr. Yasmin. Dr. Yasmin Rasyid, okay, as I mentioned earlier, okay, is a general manager of sustainability at the Sime Darby Property Malaysia and leads strategic decarbonization efforts for the company. She has a Bachelor of Science, okay, in Biology, Marine, and a minor in the Contemporary Religion from Duke University, and also Master of Science, okay, in Biotechnology and PhD in Sustainability Science from University Malaya. Dr. Yasmin brings with her over 2 decades of experience with a career spanning multiple non-governmental organizations, including World Wildlife Fund, WWF, and also Malaysian environmental NGOs. Her diverse roles encompass, okay, environmental management, community development, establishing strategic partnerships for sustainability and social responsibility. She also actively participates as mentor for various national programs on entrepreneurships, leaderships, youth empowerment, women empowerment, and also environmental and research as well. Okay. Before I pass the session to Dr. Yasmin, here are some housekeeping rules for everyone. All audience members, please mute your mic throughout the talk. If possible, switch on your camera and use our virtual background. If you have any questions, feel free to write in the chat box. There will be also an opportunity to engage with Dr. Yasmin directly at the end of her session. For audience on Facebook, please write your comments, okay, in the comment section, and we will try our best to share them with Dr. Yasmin. And the link, okay, for the attendance will be given at the end of session. Okay, for UKM staff, okay, you'll be given UKM Bakat points, and for others, you will also receive a e-certificate. And please do not share the registration link, okay, with others who are not joining us today. We will also have a photo session before the end of the program. Okay, I hope everyone enjoys today's talk. Okay, and without further ado, now I pass the floor to Dr. Yasmin. Dr. Yasmin, okay, you may start.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you very much. I'm actually going through everyone's, looking at a list of who is here. And you're right, no one has their camera on, only you and I can. So it must be a very shy bunch. Anyway, good morning. Thank you so much for deciding to spend your Friday morning in this talk. My name is Yasmin Rasyid, and as Pierre mentioned, I am currently the General Manager of Sustainability in Sime Darby Property, Berhad. And we're always delighted to, of course, support any efforts done by Yayasan Sime Darby. And then personally, I also have a vested interest in research, especially in the areas of sustainability. So I hope we can have really great conversations about that. I assume many of you are from the academia, and we're on the commercial side. So I think my philosophy is if academia and businesses work closer and closely, we should be able to actually shortcut a lot of process to find innovative solutions for sustainability. So I'll stop there. And I'll start a little bit about my background because I think we're all here in this call mainly for one reason, for maybe for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're part of the UKM-YSD Chair and you want to participate and you like hearing new perspectives. Number two, you're probably also quite interested in sustainability in various ways, right? So my talk today is to just perhaps share with you how my journey was and how I landed up in sustainability because I didn't, unlike today, 20 years ago, there wasn't a degree or master's or PhD in sustainability. Today, yes, you have that. And doing work that is about sustainability 20, 30 years ago was very different. And the approach was also very, very different. So I started out, I knew when I was very young, I liked to do everything that will take me outdoor. I was very lucky. I had a government scholarship to study biology in a foreign university, and I took the opportunity to specialize in marine biology because I was very intrigued with understanding the relationship between, the environment and me personally. And that curiosity led me to learn many, many new terminologies. I remember in 1996, that was the first time I heard words like sustainable development, global warming, sea water level rising, sea temperature rising. And I was very lucky to spend my summers working in research labs on islands, and I could really see these differences. And at that time, I've also had high interest to want to understand what are the human impacts to contribute to it. Today, you and I know we call it anthropogenic factors, right? Man-made activities that contribute to the change of the climate. So those were my early stages. But back then, we didn't really have specific words that were coined. We didn't, and we didn't really knew what to, how to drive it, So that was the past. That was in 1998. And then when I came back to Malaysia, I worked for WWF as a scientific officer. That was my, as a young graduate, you're always very inspired, empowered, want to go change the world. And you come back and you realize that, especially in Malaysia, I was Western educated, but we came back, we realized our perception of how we influence our environment was very different from what we learned. And that's where I got very interested in social cultural contexts of sustainability. We all know what we need to do to maintain a healthy planet, but we all live in different social cultural contexts. with different levels of progression. And that could be a challenge for a country like Malaysia, where, we're at a very interesting juxtaposition of whether we want to focus on just economic growth. Something's got to be compromised, and that will be sustainability. But if you want to do both, how do we balance that? So I think Malaysia was going through that conundrum at that time. We saw more rivers getting polluted. We saw more NGOs being born. We saw a lot more NGOs driving very specific matters that they want to advocate and lobby for. And I was very fortunate to be in that environment as well, to see how important if you want to drive sustainability and environmental conservation or protection, using the NGO approach, a nonprofit approach, can be one very exciting way to advocate for change. So I wore the hat of an NGO supporter. I ended up finding my own NGO, Eco-Nights, which still functions today. And then halfway through, I realized that personally, one of the hardest and biggest changes for sustainability in the planet in general would be businesses, because businesses are owned by shareholders. Businesses have huge number of employees, depending on what kind of business you are. Making a change for sustainability in the company has a huge cascading rippling effect on economies of the world. And that's when I decided I wanted to challenge myself to go to a sector that needed more sustainability innovations. And I chose real sector, which was pretty much how I ended up working in land lease as a sustainability director, and now in Sime Darby as a general manager for sustainability. So to cut the story short, I accidentally stumbled into my role along my journey. Of course, passion in sustainability was important, but I wasn't necessarily, like 20 years ago, if you asked me, is your goal to be a chief sustainability officer? My answer would be no, because that role didn't even exist 20 years ago. But in the last 5 years, you can see companies really focusing so much on this topic that even from the career perspective, there's so much more opportunities for people who study or who are practitioners in this field. Studying it is one thing, but having experience in delivering sustainability initiatives is also another thing. I see there is one interesting area in academia that is, I think, a struggle with academics. There's only so much you can teach about sustainability. You can be theoretical, you can use case studies, but the real magic of sustainability is actually putting your knowledge into action out there. So what I'm really intrigued about the UKM-YSD Chair is I hear from here that you guys conduct and deliver research related to oil palm plantations and climate change. I would really like to challenge the UKM-YSD Chair fellows, right, recipients, to start thinking about doing research on the built environment and climate change for many reasons. Number one, we are all inside a building right now, whether for work, whether for sports, whether to shop, or whether to go home. And if there's going to be more of us as a population, and if our population is going to continue to grow, so will the built environment. Yet the built environment contributes 40% of the emissions to total global emissions, which means every home we own, we should be responsible on how to manage, live, and take care of it in order to maintain the integrity of the environment. And people like us perhaps need a lot of innovative solutions and technology coming to our doors in order to ensure that we continue to build. We don't have the choice. We have to continue to build because people want shelters and homes, want something over their heads. But we want to build in a more sustainable manner. And how is that happening within the local landscape? How is it happening in your experience is what I would like to hear in this talk. So I will pause here now because I think getting to hear what your questions are in this domain is important. And I also understand that some of you have posted questions earlier on for me to answer. Would this be the right time to answer them here?
Can. I can read some of it to you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, there's a few questions, okay, and we chose them lah, okay. So I think this one may be quite relevant lah, okay. It's about the challenges when you are in the management. So the question is, okay, what challenges, okay, did you encounter, okay, when implementing a sustainability management system in your own organization now?
Many challenges, but it also depends on what kind of organization. Number one, I always have to put a business case or demonstrate why we need systems in place. Why do we need change? Why do we need this policy? So I do a lot of lobbying. For a lack of a better word, I have to be a salesman with a sustainability mindset. And sometimes my bosses, my higher management, my board members, I cannot expect everyone to have the same sustainability level of understanding like me. So normally it's a very tactical approach, it's very strategic. Sometimes pull them aside and have coffee chats. Sometimes I do knowledge sharing session. Sometimes I bring external parties to tell them or advocate about certain things. And then the next step would be naturally, hey, I've got a solution and I've got an approach for you. But I'm always also tasked by my MD. I report directly to my MD to make sure that I communicate what are these changes to my operations team, my management team. So my management team is also a major key stakeholder when I need to introduce something like a new policy or update a policy or force a KPI on them because it's a corporate KPI. So for instance, recently, I'll use this as an example. In Sime Darby Property, we have scorecards, KPIs for our bosses and for ourselves. My boss has two sustainability KPIs. Number one, carbon budget. We cannot exceed a certain emissions every year. And then there's base threshold and target. Of course, this is done to make sure, number one, this has to be done. We say we're going net zero. Every year we must look at reductions. And we want the company to all do this together, not just put a number and then we don't know how to get there. A number two target is circularity. We have to reach a waste diversion rate of a certain percent from landfill every year. And this KPI is set at the highest level. And when it goes to management, we support management by giving them education. We run workshops to tell them about the different ways to get to this target. Talk to contractors because we all want to win, right? We all want to demonstrate we're good. And the reality is in years to come, there will be more sustainability indicators that will play a very, very critical role. And as you are aware, ESG performance is already going to be business as usual very soon. At this moment, I'm only looking at environment and the social indicators in ESG is even going to play a more critical role. So what I really do is I have to lobby a lot. I do a lot of lobbying. Like I said, I'm a salesperson, I'm a marketeer, but I only market a specific product, which is a sustainability initiative, a solution that can help make my company be a leader or comply or compete with other peers out there. And who doesn't want to do that? Because you do benefit your brand, you actually build confidence in your shareholders, your stakeholders, you also attract better investors. So I do that at a very strategic level. I also then, if management has approved, my MD likes it, I also bring it to the board sustainability, and I bring it eventually to the board before it gets approved and endorsed. So that's more on the governance side, and I do a lot. With my management, I also have to do a lot of engagement, stakeholder engagement, a lot of influencing, a lot of negotiation. Because to be honest, sometimes when I walk into a room, naturally people will think, oh gosh, Yasmin is here. She's going to tell me to do sustainability, and she's going to tell me how much I have to pay. And that's usually when everyone shuts down and don't want to talk to me. So sometimes I need to change that perspective as well, that sustainability need not necessarily be costing you an arm and a leg. There are solutions out there, and sustainability cannot be forced to be changed immediately in a 180 perspective. That's why everyone says it's a journey. In sustainability, you need to bring more and more people along. So sometimes I think I spend a lot of time correcting this misconception people have about sustainability. And sustainability is not the responsibility of just the sustainability department. In my opinion, sustainability is everyone's responsibility, and everyone actually has a very important role to play. We just need to perhaps socialize that more so that people are more aware. Yeah.
Okay, Doctor. Just a follow-up question to that answer just now. You mentioned that you try to design a KPI for your top managements, okay, and then they have to achieve a certain. Sometimes we feel like to measure sustainability is not easy because it's not all numbers. Some of it actually is a bit more abstract kind of items, right? So this is a questions from the audience now. Okay, they say, how do you measure the success of your sustainability efforts, Seth?
So you're right. It's qualitative and quantitative. I like the quantitative one because it's very straightforward, right? Emissions is from your energy bill, is from your petrol bill. Scope 3, while very complex, it can still be quantified because there is a methodology. Yang paling susah to quantify is the S and the G. How do you know if policies are working? How do you track human rights? How do you track social value? How do you track mental health? How do you track well-being? How do you track diversity, equity, and inclusion? So we're at that learning curve right now as well. Right now we're digitizing an ESG tracking dashboard and system. Of course, we quickly onboard the quantitative one because that one we know the parameters very well. In the next few months, you will see us trialing and testing out the qualitative elements there, like events, volunteer hours. Like here, volunteer hours is still quantitative, but what does quantitative volunteer hours mean in social value? Stuff like that. We're still working with partners. Some are researchers as well to help us refine methodology, strategies, and approach as well. More on the methodology.
It's being developed in-house at the Sime Darby Property.
With some external help, yes, because we have some limitation in our knowledge, especially when you want to talk about capturing economic value of what we do, right? Like the social return of investments, of protecting our green spaces in Elmina. What is the social return of investment for making parks?
Correct.
Can we actually measure that parks are enhancing the physical and mental well-being of people who live in our townships? Because I think there's so much science to what we do. Is the way we design landscape actually and our tree planting matrix helping to um, create a 0.5% degree Celsius temperature drop in our township. You know, there are so many, I have so many research questions, question mark. And this also, of course, needs to be tracked, measured, and then rated, right? Like what does it mean in the scale of ESG? So for everyone's information, right, there is already many ESG ratings out there, some done by Maybank and all that. So we also follow their rating system, and we also get rated, because when we publish our sustainability report, the data is out there, and you can really compare among all our peers or competitors how we fare. So for instance, last year we were, I think, 63 out of 100 in our ESG rating, just above average. And we know some of our competitors are scoring 70 plus. So we are also observing that, like, what are the areas we personally need to improve on in all the ESG dimensions. We kind of know where it is, and we're tackling that right now. So essentially, we will have a dashboard that can pull qualitative and quantitative data together, and be able to, that's why data science, data analytics for us in sustainability is super important. We're going to be sitting on so many levels of information and data. And so how do you then weave that story and how you fare in ESG? I think is very important.
Okay, so I think we also facing the same thing lah. So how to merge the quantitative and the qualitative things whenever we do any programs together, because we have to answer to our funders as well. They want to know as a wholesome story rather than just we did this. Okay. So I think something that we can also learn from the property in coming time. Okay. So there's other questions as well. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, can I just add here that
sure.
I think that expectation is reasonable, Mona Sabah, because because, right, and I digress a little bit. My PhD was on my PhD is in sustainability science. First time ever, and I almost cried and almost broke down, burnt out. I had no choice but to do mixed method research. It was very, very painful, because I know I can master quantitative, but my quantitative did not tell me a lot about this particular area of sustainability I was studying. And I had to do qualitative. And when I had to do both, that was my most painful 1 year of data analysis and fact finding and soul searching and everything, to really understand how to triangulate and how and this and how and that. But if you can break it, then your findings are just fantastic. So I think it's difficult. Everything in life is difficult, but it's necessary to break that boundary.
Yeah.
So
okay. Just now you mentioned that the company is standing about like number 63 in the list of reported. Usually people will talk about the strength of the company, all these things, okay? But just being a researcher, I would like to know what is the area that Sime Darby Property would like to improve, so that maybe in the coming years the rating will increase.
Supply chain. Supply chain would be a big area we need to work on in the next 2-3 decades, because the supply chain won't change overnight. And I don't think that our supply chain will change so fast in the next 2-3 years. We are a real estate company. We have a massive supply chain that supplies us with nuts, bolts, cement, steel, manpower. So the topic of human rights, workers' rights, and the human element, the S in the ESG comes in. So that is a very giant topic to tackle. And with more emphasis on Scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 emissions in general is everyone's biggest emissions, right? There's a lot of pressure I mean, investors are already asking us to do it, but we also understand our Syarikat Ali, Syarikat Achong, all our SMEs may not even understand what ESG is or know how to start picking up. But I'm hopeful because what I think this does is really force our SMEs to really start thinking about being competitive. And you know, in Europe, they already have CBAM, right? The carbon tax already in place. So if I want to sell to Europe, I really need to fulfill your regulations, which means I need to track and measure my carbon. So this is the reality. Unless you're happy, you ada syarikat XYZ, you nak supply 5 kat situ je, you don't mind about ESG, it's fine, I guess. But if you want to scale up, you want to grow, you want to be a big company, you cannot run away from it. You have to comply.
Okay. So I think let's keep the big business away for a while. There's one question. I think it's a personal question as well. Okay. What really motivates you to start your NGO and then to really work towards sustainability?
It was for fun, actually. I took a break because I was a very young mother. I got married. I had a 2-year-old. I was doing a lot of homebound consultancies. And as she was growing up, I wanted to create children's program that would give me the opportunity to bring my daughter Mia to nature. At the same time, I can benefit other people's children. So that's how it started. I think Mia helped me. I know she loves rivers, so we did a lot of river explorer, radio education. And then she had a bunch of friends that were very, very nature in tune, like really. I don't know how these. I wish you could see more kids like that today lah. They nampak sungai je, they'll bring an aquarium and net, they'll go in, they'll jump, they'll catch, release. I felt more children should be like that. So I ran a lot of children's programs. And then my daughter is my mascot. My daughter's friends are my mascots. And that's how EcoNight started. And I had a fun time hanging out with their parents. I wasn't doing it for profit, I was just doing it because I have that capability. I'm trained. I'm biologically trained to do this. I want my daughter to experience it, and I want my daughter's friends to experience it, and now their parents experience it. So that was 2005 when EcoNights was born. And as she grew up, my programs catered to people her age group. Eventually, EcoNights does programs for children right up to university students. My daughter now is 22 years old. Clearly, she's not doing these programs with EcoNights. Yeah, that was it. And along the way, in that 15 years of running EcoNights, I saw some really amazing young talents, Malaysians, non-Malaysians, coming in to volunteer, to intern, to become staff. And they come from, UKM, and they come from all backgrounds. My interns come from law, math, engineering, MBAs, some PhD even come and intern and volunteer. And I'm really happy to see now they are doing so much more better stuff in ESG sustainability, and their experience helped them. So in short, I think if I were to connect back why I did it, I always tell people I wanted a platform that can create agents of change or an army of change. And I think the name says a lot, EcoNights. And I think that happened. But I have since left EcoNights. Like I said, EcoNights is fantastic if you're young. If you're 4, you're 6, you're 12, you're 16, you're 18, you're 22. I was getting too old to run an organization that is meant to really grow young leadership and young talent. So when I saw that the team was fantastic already, you know, the program director of EcoNight started off as a volunteer in 2005, and he's a program director now. So there you go. That's a testament to basically his whole life is EcoNight, right? So when I saw the dedication, the new blood that is coming in to lead, I thought I should exit lah. So that's when I exit. And that's when I realized, okay, time to do sustainability harder, challenge myself. And I decided one of the biggest contributor to global emission is real estate. I want to try that and see how much change can I do in that sector with whatever years I have left of my life.
Okay. Practicing sustainability actually is not it's very costly because sometimes we want to do the right things, okay, but it will have the cost implication, okay. Not every organization, okay, whether small or big, they can actually afford to take into that directions, okay. So what are the where you draw the boundary as a balancing act, okay, between the accessibility and also the cost? Is there any, your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think you should always do a SWOT analysis or a risk assessment first before you say, ini mahal sangat nak buat. Because some of these initiatives is actually operational savings for you. Contohnya, I was working with an asset who was not using all traditional conventional lights. To change the entire asset's leisure lights would cost them 700,000.
Wow.
Mahal tu. But what was, of course, then as sustainability, the guy was like, I'm not going to put this in my budget. I got other things to spend on, right? But then when you put it in such a way where the 700,000 can every year save you 100,000 ringgit for the next 20 years. Contohnya lah. So you must do like a ROI kind of analysis before you look at it. I mean, at least that's how I work with my team. Selalunya we like look at this initiative, energy reduction initiative, nampak tak? Tengok ROI dia berapa? More than 10 years, okay lah, kita tunggu dululah. If ROI dia is less than 2 years, that means we're recovering faster and getting more savings. We're going to do it immediately because we see the midterm to long-term benefit of doing it. For companies that do not want to spend, but still want to do, there are actually a lot of solutions out there. For instance, if you want to rooftop solar, but you don't want to spend money, no capex, participate in TNB's G-Sparks program. That is zero capex. You can still, I do. There is these kind of things out there. And lastly, if you're a small company, you don't want to spend, but you need to do something, then I would say talk to your HR or your strategy and maybe come up with policies. Policies is probably the only cost to you is your manpower lah, but it's your staff kan. So things like, do you have a human rights policy? Do you have a sustainability policy? Do you have a waste management policy? I think these are also very important things as a company you need to have from a governance perspective. So you still need to spend man hours to do that, but you don't necessarily have to buy something like light bulb to change and all that. So it depends. And it's hard to decide which to start first because you need a strategy, right?
Correct.
You need a strategy, you need to understand where you are. So before you even start and say, I want to change the light bulbs, that's a sustainable way to think, you should perhaps have a plan first. What is the sustainability plan of your company, your organization? And then where are we going to focus our strategic initiatives? So benda ni tak boleh fly by night ya, tak boleh macam hangat-hangat tai ayam nak buat ni, nak buat tu and sustainable. No. You need to plan, to have a very strategic mindset on this.
How about ESG rating tools? can they
What about
can you have you used that to convince your management to pursue further towards sustainability?
I don't have to really use it to convince them, because when our ratings is out, contohnya baru-baru ni Maybank rated us 63/100. In an hour, my boss texted me and say, how are we going to raise it to 70?
Okay, so it really works.
My man, this is not for everyone. I know it's not fair to say this, but I have a very super supportive board, management, and boss. I am very thankful. There is very strong sustainability support top to bottom. And I'm also very, very thankful in Sime Darby Property. Dari dulu, diorang dah start things like for every tree they remove, they will replant one. Benda ni semua memang dah buat dulu. Cuma kita tak panggil sustainability time tu lah, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So in that case, I'm also very thankful. From the operation side, benda ni bukan benda baru, bukan janggal. Cuma, we need to be cohesive, right? Because we're working as one entity.
Okay, I think there's one last question before I open to the audience. Okay, I think this is a potential buyer lah. Okay, so I think Encik Faizal, he want to know. Okay, out of all the township in Sime Darby Property, okay, you think which one has actually complied the most with the sustainability ratings?
I think that's a hard question, because I don't know what ESG ratings is fair to use for the township, because each township is quite different.
Correct.
So susah nak cakap ESG ratings, tapi macam kalau nak talk about Bandar Bukit Raja, I think one of the coolest things they have done there is their man-made constructed wetlands.
Yes, cantik.
Yeah,
It's full of people. I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, sebab we took a lot of beating many years ago when the area was flooded very bad. 2021 was the worst flood. And as a developer, kita ada kawasan untuk develop. Tapi kita kena, kalau kita zoom out, Bandar Bukit Raja ramai juga pembangunan yang berlainan. Land use dia memang macam-macam. So kadang-kadang apa yang kita realize is, kalau kita plan kita punya township according to the top mas specs lah di semua tu, tapi persekitaran kita tak semesti tak buat macam tu, kita akan suffer dan rugi juga. And that's what we learn. Contohnya piping yang berlainan saiz masuk keluar sini kan, so there's always overflow and in certain areas, just because we're not prudent, we're not following specs, we want to save money, so yang susah kemudian penduduk. And kadang-kadang longkang tak cukup widening, kadang-kadang macam Bandar Bukit Raja, I was so shocked, pokok kat dalam irrigation drain, pokok dia dah besar, so macam mana water nak outflow kepada curi kan, and then tak di-maintain. So banyak multifactorial impact on the living condition, and that's how we came about with the constructed wetlands. Sebab macam we make sure we build it at the gradient, we know where the excessive water flow is, and we make sure it is like I don't know, MASMA 1000 or 10,000 or something, that kind of specs lah, so that we can cater, I think, 10 or 15 Olympic size swimming pool punya water and make sure tak banjir. Tapi to be honest, I wish we did that a lot earlier, and we didn't have to wait until a massive flood like that happened. But it was also the massive flood that woke us all up, and then we started looking at, we should look at the big picture. We should actually look at outside our township, look at the land use patterns, and then work strategically with local authorities to address this in a very humble and tactful manner. Sebab we are not the only player in that area. Ramai juga kena diberi kesedaran bahawa mereka juga bertanggungjawab. Sebab kalau tak, kita tengok in silo macam tu, then hancurlah township tu kan. So that's one example. Another one, this is a completely different example. Siapa nama yang tanya ni?
Yang tanya ni Encik Muhammad Faizal Ahmad Mahali.
Encik Muhammad Faizal. Satu lagi township mungkin memberi perspektif berlainan adalah KL East. Di mana dia township yang berlainan sikit, dia macam di bandar. Dan di mana fokus kita adalah kepada protection of 53 acre of secondary forest yang connected ke Bukit Tabur dan kemudian ke Klang Gates Ridge. Kami rasa for KL East Township, keunikan township tu adalah kawasan hutan tersebut, which is 53 acres, dan kami haraplah dapat use that as one is daya tarikan lah kan, tapi memang best lah environment kat situ. Kalau you visit kat depan park ada termometer, kadang-kadang kat luar tu 30 darjah Celsius, 33, tapi bila you masuk, kita pasang juga termometer kat dalam park tu, you boleh merasa dan nampak dengan sendiri temperature drop sampai ke 24, 23. Yeah, so I feel that it adds value to the community there. Number two, memang ramai lah orang suka actually berhiking, bertrekking di KL East Park. Jadi, and then for third reason, kami pun sudah buat analisis bersama dengan frame dan pantas untuk memastikan carbon sequestration potential KL East Park, dan kami pun berjayalah mendapatkan actually KL East Park is a carbon sink. If we continue to let the forest grow, plant more trees in the more degraded areas, we can enhance the sequestration potential, and we definitely want to maintain that as something to offset our emissions in the future. And then if you go to Elmina, it's a different kind of approach, where Elmina uses urban biodiversity and nature-based solutions as well. We are next to Bukit Ceraka. We are doing ecological restoration. We are doing 6 to 7 parks that are connected through pathways. Because Elmina is a city you need to cycle, walk to enjoy nature. And it's built and designed very differently. So, kalau nak rate township ni, I rasa rating dia akan berlainan sebab offering dia berlainan. Jadi terpulang kepada Encik nak living environment macam mana. So kadang explore township semua dulu. Saya pun susah nak buat decision township mana yang saya rasa ESG ratingnya tinggi. Sebab it really depends what you're looking for as a buyer.
So personally, I think I visited all the three. Okay, if you ask me, I prefer the KL East lah. Memang frequent pergi East Mall tu lah. So it's a very small and nice mall dekat edge of Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, actually, Pierre, if compared those three, my favorite would be KL East as well, because I think I prefer city living, and to have 3-kilometer trail right outside my house, and wake up to a forest in the city. I think that's a miracle when we can still have places like that in KL.
Okay, Dr. Yasmin, if you don't mind, I think I would like to allow some of the audience to ask you directly, because now we actually spot like 10:23. Okay, so we can entertain about 3 or 4 questions before we end today's session. Is it okay, Dr. Yasmin?
Sure.
Okay, so to all the audience, okay, now it's your turn. Okay, if you would like to ask direct questions, okay, to Dr. Yasmin, okay, and then I think hopefully she can answer lah, okay. But to all audience, okay, if possible, try to not to ask some really controversial kind of questions. We don't want to go to any of that area. So now I open the floor, okay, for any audience. Okay, you can on your camera, and then you can introduce yourself, and then you can directly ask to our Dr. Yasmin. Anyone from the floor? Anyone? Can on your mic? Even if the camera is not working, it's okay. You can just ask, introduce yourself, and then you can ask your question directly. Okay, so we have roughly about 130 audience now. Oh yeah, we have Nuruz Syuhada. Okay, Dr. Nuruz. Dr. Nuruz from MK Land. Dr. Nuruz,
Hi.
apa khabar Doktor? Doktor boleh dengar kan? Oh, ada problem dengan mic. Okay, you can type your questions. I'll answer. I'll ask Dr. Yasmin on behalf.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello. I have one question to ask. Want to ask about maybe you can share your experiences or thought on how to increase the awareness and education about the importance of recycling domestic waste. I think the society in Malaysia, mostly they know about sustainability, but the action to do it is, I think, is quite low. So maybe you have experience in how to increase the awareness, or maybe on the awareness for them to recycling domestic waste, and given the current challenges in executing the sustainable practices. So
Yeah.
maybe you can share your experience or your thought on this. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. That's a good question because it's something we had to deal with the last 6 months. So as I mentioned, percentage of waste diverted from landfill is a KPI for top management, and we have to track it. So one of the things our recycling rate as a group company is not really impressive. Was not really impressive. If you are aware, rasanya kita nationally recycling rate kita dalam 32, 33 or 36 macam tu, the national recycling rate. And then I think by next year kononnya cita-cita negara kita adalah to reach by 40%. Rasanya takkan tercapai. So mungkin kita kena buat target yang baru. Dan last year 2023 secara Sime Darby Property Group hanya dapat mencapai 23%. Jadi jauh daripada even benchmark negara nak achieve 40%. So and then what we did was beberapa effort lah. Nombor satu, kita perasan bahawa waste management guideline company kita dah tak updated sangat. Ya, tak updated. Jadi my team work together to enhance and upgrade kita punya integrated waste management guideline. And a few new elements were included in there sebab orang akan selalu tanya kenapa kita nak recycle waste. So kadang-kadang contractor tak faham lah kan. And then what does it mean to a company like us? For us kan, for every kilo of waste yang tak end up in landfill, we consider it as carbon avoidance. So we of course want to enhance carbon avoidance a lot more by making sure we don't contribute to landfill waste. And dari segi landfill waste, kita pun ada berbagai jenis landfill waste domestic, tapi kuantiti dia sangat kecil. Construction paling banyak sebab kita banyak buat township and development, dan operational waste. Operational waste ni is a mixture of organic and inorganic, dan kebanyakannya datang daripada retail mall, commercial assets daripada kita lah. And masa kita set KPI baru-baru ni, quarter 1 punya performance sangat tidak memuaskan lah secara for the whole company. Jadi bila kita share data ni, kita perasan semua township mula mengambil perhatian. So no one wants to be not doing well in recycling. And everyone knows that this is a KPI. And when that happened, it caused a can of worms to open. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, what is waste management? What is sustainable waste management? Apa itu recover? Apa itu reuse? Apa itu recycle? Jadi, for the last 6 months, kami dapati tim sustainability bergabung dengan tim operations. Memang kita kena buat roadshow di setiap township kepada operations team untuk mengajar apa yang ada dalam guideline. Dan roadshow ni bukan setakat kepada warga Sime Darby sahaja, but it's also to our contractor yang at the end ambil kita punya waste. So rupa-rupanya banyak lack of awareness at the contractor level, at our level. What is considered recycle? What is considered reuse? What is repurpose? So when we actually went down the ground and did that education and awareness, we saw our recycling rate continuously increase. Sebab now contractor dengan kita punya operations team dah faham. Sebenarnya all this oil palm mulching ni kita dah boleh redirect daripada landfill bila kita look at reusing it for land reclamation purposes. And when we clear land, it's a lot of land mulching. It's like in hundreds and thousands of tons. So from there, a better understanding of what sustainable waste management is immediately translated into better waste diversion rate for us. So itu adalah case study yang kita buat bahawa walaupun kita ada guideline, ada policy, kadang-kadang benda ni tak bermakna kalau you tak turun ke padang and hey bro, let's go learn something about waste management. We really need to meet some kind of a middle ground how we can do this. So that human component, the education component is still very, very critical and helps you translate policies into action. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Just a follow-up question for that. Okay, you mentioned that you did a roadshow for your members in Sunday Properties and also for the contractors. By any chance or possibility to expand to member of public?
Maybe not, but we can maybe do some sort of education and awareness specific for external people like public, just to share with you a case study of how we do it. Because I think for us, each township is very unique, different stages of construction, different waste challenges. So what we can do is learn from these case studies, maybe work out a presentation, and we can definitely share our practices and case studies with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But any other questions from the audience? Any more questions?
Very shy audience today.
But they are actually from various companies. I know some of them personally. Okay, we have from few organizations, some companies, some universities. They are lecturers, professors here. So yeah. Anyone? Ada soalan tak? Student pun boleh tanya juga.
Ya, kalau malu boleh type di chat.
Ya, boleh.
Tapi maybe while we wait for questions, I just want to highlight that sektor kita ya, sektor real estate, property development adalah sektor yang agak intensif dan juga mainkan role yang sangat penting lah as a contributor to global warming and climate emissions. Tapi kita pun sedar bahawa we need to be also the biggest game changer in this domain. Sebabnya, like I said earlier on, the demand for homes, offices, workplaces will only continue to increase. And you can see now there is a lot of migration to city centers, to satellite cities for work and all that as well. So with more people coming to the city, you will see the built environment getting more intense. And land being used more aggressively and old towns being regenerated more aggressively. This is the state of the future we're in. So we sit in a very unique juxtaposition where we need to build for people, but we also need to balance that, making sure we build as sustainable as we can. 50%.
Sorry. Go ahead.
50% of that whole narrative is from materials, construction. The other 50% is operational carbon, which is how you behave when you are in that building. So you need to look at sustainability from multiple perspectives. Bukan saja developer yang salah, yang tak sustainable guna cement. Kita juga move into a cement-made home, and we switch on lights and we use water. So there is the embodied carbon narrative, there is the operational carbon narrative. And if you put this together, that is the complete picture that you should look at when you talk about real estate.
Just now we were talking a lot about the management, the staff, contractors. I just wondering, does this effort of sustainability, does it translate to better sales and attracting buyers towards owning more sustainable homes or something like this?
I struggle to be able to validate that here, because consultants come to us and say, yeah, you can fetch better rents if your mall is greener and all that. I think the best case study I see now is the Exchange TRX mall. I think that is the best case study that shows, because they are 140% oversubscribed, meaning there is a big number of tenants waiting to come into the mall, tapi tak dapat, and they're 100% vacated, and their rent is premium, and it is a GBI and the gold mall. So and that was my previous company that I worked with, right? And I never saw so many tenants coming in and asking us questions like, when are we getting renewable energy? When are we getting green power? When are we going zero waste to landfill? I mean, these are the kind of tenants that ideally you want, in your mall, who is already very sustainable. And because they're international brands, so dia dipaksa, dia kena move into a gold mall in order to operate. So that is a good case study di mana you can fetch a higher rent. Tapi for Sime Darby, we know, we hear, we understand and acknowledge this case study, but we are not able to concretize that yet in value. Tapi kami harap betul lah, yang memang betul lah, that people will pay premium because we have more parks. People will pay more premium because township ni lagi sejuk tau, sebab kita lagi banyak pokok. But I don't have hard data for that here.
Okay.
I would actually like to test further, and this is a research question to UKM-YSD Chair. Can you measure like better physical or mental health compare in townships. Because for me, quality of living is very important. And what is quality of life? Is it about accessibility? Is it mobility? Is it greenery? Is it social infrastructure? What is it that makes you feel I'm willing to pay more to stay in this township? So kalau ada siapa-siapa yang berminat on this topic, saya pun sangat berminat. Sebab I think it's multidimensional. It's going to be quantitative and qualitative. And I think it's a very interesting piece of work to look into.
So yeah, I'll take note on this, and then we will share with the members now. But just a follow up about the questions now. Okay, you mentioned about TRX. I believe those who actually try to get into TRX most likely is either they are international brands, okay, which they already have to follow all these guidelines, okay, all the ratings, okay, or more maybe sustainability. They have a higher awareness level for the sustainability principles and framework. Okay, just a thing. Okay, let's say we try to focus on the rural members of society. So they have a less. They know what is SDG, but they have a less exposure, or they have a less driving force to actually choose more sustainable options. So for those kind of segment of society, you think what is the best way to promote more sustainable practices among the rural areas?
I don't know. I think rural areas are quite sustainable in general in practices.
Yes.
Because of their lifestyle and livelihood. I think compared to urban centers in rural areas, their food choice, food selection, way of disposal is also perhaps a little bit more friendlier than us in the city lah. But for
I think
me,
food choice, yes, but way of disposable maybe a bit hard to say. So kadang-kadang when kita pergi sawah pun, we recently we have some project in Kedah, and we can see sampah near dekat sawah padi, all these things. So
I cannot comment on rural peer because my expertise is not in that area.
okay.
But if I can just focus on someone like you and me in the city or the suburb, right? Personally, and I'm just sharing personal stuff. Number one is packaging. Always try to be conscious of packaging. Kalau setiap hari boleh cakap tak nak kepada satu plastik bag, plastik container, dalam setahun dah 365 plastik bag you tak guna. I mean, I work on that level. So contohnya, I bring a water bottle so that I don't have to take someone else's plastic water bottle, ataupun kadang-kadang I refill je air daripada mana event tu. I have something on the go. Number two, personally, my eating habits is also very strict. I only take what I can finish. So I don't go to buffets. I actually refuse to go to buffets. Maybe once a year I oblige for a raya buffet. But I memang rugilah bawa I macam orang macam I pada buffet sebab I takkan sumbat sampai tak boleh jalan. Because I practice moderation. Kat rumah, simple thing, saya ada bin compost. Saya telah as a compost practitioner for 8 years. Tapi vegan composting, saya tak compose daging, saya compose hanya macam barang-barang dapur, daun kulit-kulit bawang, telur, kulit telur, roti yang dah rosak, nasi yang dah rosak. Tapi saya compose sebab kami di sekeluarga pun recycle. So benda-benda kecil macam ni lah. I rasa anak I yang besar pun dah 22, memang dah jadi tabiat dia orang. Kalau tak habis makan, jalan kat luar, kompos makanan. Jadi, for me, I'm happy because I managed to inculcate this at home. Dan jadi saya pun praktikkan sendiri. My wish is, and then tak mahal pun. Mana ada cost involved. My water tumbler banyak je dapat free daripada event. Shopping bag banyak dapat free daripada event, berlambat dalam kereta, cloth bag, tak pernah putus. Container makanan pun banyak saya free yang dapat. Jadi saya punya lifestyle sangat, I would say, very low key dan biasa. Kalau boleh masak, masak. Kalau kat luar makan, sekali-sekala habiskan makanan dalam plate. Jadi it's a habit. It's a lifestyle. Sometimes I give in and shop online, but I'm very mindful. I shop. Saya pun guilty juga, packaging. I like pre-loved items, thrifting. So that's my way of being more sustainable with fashion. And my daughter is she designs a lot of baju from pre-loved items. So I'm very thankful for that. So just small things like that, which for me is like, I don't really have to force myself to do. I enjoy doing it and I walk the talk lah. But I have to say I'm not 100% perfect as well. I still fly here and there for work. I still emit emissions through my flight. I drive a lot less. When I was working in TRX, every day I take the train because it's 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out. So for me, being sustainable must be practical, must be sensible, and must be convenient for me. And Alhamdulillah, so far, tak susah pun. Jadi I encourage all of you to do that lah.
I think the key actually is the family comes together and try to practice together, and also the important actually is practical lah. There's we don't want to suffer, okay, when try to achieve sustainability. Because I've seen some people, they actually they are really like, I don't know whether they are happy or not, but they look like they actually want to promote.
And here, I also don't believe you have to buy something to be sustainable. I don't believe in that.
Correct, yeah.
Why must you spend money? I mean, maybe I'm a cheapskate lah, but I'm thinking like, for instance, I have a rainwater harvesting system at home. I dengan my partner buat sendiri je, banyak je kat YouTube, ambil drum, redesign gutter, and now I boleh siram pokok I tanpa guna potable water, guna air hujan je. I was thinking, tak sampai pun RM100 kan, macam the drum kita beli daripada hardware shop second hand. Catkan just to make sure the warna cantik dengan rumah kita, itu je. Sebenarnya kita dah lost touch dengan kemahiran hidup. Kalau kita
itu betul. Sangat betul.
Kalau kita praktikkan benda ni, banyak benda yang kita boleh, yang dah rosak boleh fix balik. Tak semestinya beli yang baru. Contohnya, I takkan tukar semua light bulb dalam rumah I LED sebab I tahu kos capex dia tinggi. Tapi bila lampu I dah rosak, gantian dia adalah LED. Sebab buat ala-ala kadar. Jadi lama-lama hopefully rumah I semua LED lah.
Tak, so ni apa amalan untuk nak repair ni makin lama makin kurang lah. So kalau dia anything ke, just ambil phone, klik, dah sampai kat rumah esok. dia dah just replace saja. So repairing actually is getting lesser and lesser lah. I don't know what to say, but sometimes it's a business juga kan untuk.
I think it's a significant R that is missing in the whole 3R, 5R narrative. Before you recycle, you should repair first.
Betul, repair. Yeah. Okay, saya rasa saya bagi last satu chance, okay, kepada audience. Anyone want to ask a direct question to Dr. Yasmin? So we are about 10:40, about 10:50 now. Okay.
Yeah, I think everyone probably want to get ready for Friday prayers.
Okay, so I want to ask one last question, Dr. Yasmin. Okay, because you mentioned you actually started the Economics, okay, and then up to a certain point, okay, you let youngsters to lead lah. So you take a back seat on the team lah. Okay, but just one question: how to inspire youngsters? Because we need youngsters to actually support this effort, kan? So it's not easy to inspire, especially I'm not too old, but the current youngsters a bit harder, I feel, kan? So, what's your opinion? How we actually can inspire more youngsters to join this kind of works?
I assume when you mean youngsters is the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, is
Yeah,
it?
correct. Yeah, then maybe now
Yeah.
17s, 18s, towards there lah. Okay, plus minus kind of.
Mm, I think you need to give them experiential learning. Because we are at a moment in humanity where I think we're going through information fatigue. Sebab kalau tak TikTok, kalau tak Google, kalau tak X, semua ada banyak information. In fact, too much information. Tapi our young generation lack immersive experience. So for me, I think like I only know one way. I see big transformation in the youngsters that come and intern in Economics. Because from there, they get to apply their knowledge in a social setting to deliver a cohesive sustainability outcome. And that requires people skills, that requires maybe some technical skills, depending what you have to do as an intern, that requires you to connect the dots between human behavior characteristics and a sustainable outcome. So I think that is always a fantastic approach. And they grow up also. They grow up and they get to mingle with different stakeholders. So for instance, we had young people that came in and suddenly were introduced to river ecology. I don't know how to explain this up here, but when you can see them, when they finally get to go out and do this and see in reality what sustainability is about, I think they grow up overnight. I think their mental state also evolves a little bit. So that's why I think in an academic setting, that's very challenging to inspire them. You need to bring these kids out. And you need to somehow insert immersive outdoor learning in class as part of university's approach moving forward. Or else I think universities will lose the competitive edge also. So, and sustainability is something you need to see in practice from a practitioner's perspective. So I feel bad when I'm asked to sometimes guest lecture in certain universities, right? You have a lecturer that's teaching sustainability from a theoretical perspective, but could not give a real world experience and insight into the students. So these students really need to find an opportunity to come out, or the lecturers really need to bring them out to be able to see it and experience it and know how things work. So I think that is one gap. I don't know how to close here, but I think it is about changing the learning environment. Sustainability cannot be taught just in the classroom itself.
Okay. Right. So I totally agree with that, Dr. Yasmin, because seeing actually believing, and then for me, I'm more on the hands-on kind of guys. Just reading actually is maybe for exam is enough, okay. But when come to real practice, okay, we have to move our arms and then we touch it and then we try to make some changes as small at the point, okay, and also make it as practical as possible, okay. So
Here, one last one.
yeah, one last one.
I have an opinion that the TVET program,
Yes.
vocational training, vocational students are closer to becoming sustainability implementers than pure academic students, because they are the practitioners. They actually are hands-on. So vocational can be many things, right? Can be mechanical engineering, can be anything. And because they need to apply that to their sector, they bring opportunities for sustainability to happen at a quicker pace compared to one that is purely classroom based. So TVET has high potential to be the next generation that actually can drive sustainability a bit more aggressively.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yasmin. Okay, just a brief update. Okay, so we have roughly about 130 participants today, lah. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, our target about 70 something. So I think we have a good audience, number of audience this morning. Okay, on behalf of UKM-YSD Chair, I would like to thank to Dr. Yasmin. Okay, for spending your about almost 2 hours with us today this morning. Okay, and thank you to all the participants, okay, for joining us today lah. Okay, so and before we end, okay, maybe we can take one group photo. So I would like to welcome, okay, all the audience to switch on your camera. Okay, if possible, try to use our background, and then we take a group photo as before we end to this session. Dr. Yasmin for a while, huh? Nuha, okay.
Boleh buka semua kamera.
Okay, so minta bantuan semua boleh buka kamera. So we have a few members from my department as well here. Nuha can give instruction, Nuha.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3 senyum. Okay, satu lagi. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you semua.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yasmin. Hopefully we will have a more opportunity to discuss and collaborate further, right? So to all the members yang join hari ini, terima kasih banyak-banyak. Okay, selamat berhari Minggu. Thank you, Dr. Yasmin.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin.
Bye.